So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Cami, you can go into there we go. So today we're just going to look at some of the things that we thought through as we were considering our program after we went into distance learning all of a sudden back in March. So we're going to think about the tech competencies that we had to think through as we went into distance learning and went deeper into our distance learning program, how we narrowed our focus for PD. So we're going to talk a lot about how we, kind of rolled out PD to our teachers. And then we'll give you some time to look at the resources that we've created with distance learning. So we want to tell you a little bit about our school district. Elk Grove Unified is southeast of Sacramento. So I've pointed out Sacramento on the map at the top left corner. You'll see that blue arrow. So you can see Sacramento and you can see how large and sprawled out our district is. We have 42 elementary schools and 9 middle and high schools. We have 6 alternative schools and we have 1 virtual academy. So, and it's all spread out. If you drive from one corner to the other corner of our district, it'll take you probably over an hour to get from one side to the other. In our district, we service 62,869 students from pre-K through 12. Of those students, we have about 55% that are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And then we have about 14.2% of our students are English learners. However, they're more concentrated in those areas that are closer into Sacramento. So some of our schools have far, far more English learners than that percentage would suggest. And then of course, some schools have less. So even though it says 14.2% of English learners, we do spend a lot of time working hard to service our English learners in our district. So we want to find out who is actually here with us. So we're going to put a poll into the room, and if you can go ahead and just let us know what your role is in your district or county office or wherever it is that you're coming from. So go ahead and click on that poll and share with us where you're coming from, so we can try to tailor this as best we can to the people in the room. Is everybody able to see the poll? Okay, I'm not sure everybody's able to see the poll because I'm not getting any votes at all. If you can't access the poll, go ahead and put into the chat what your role is in your district, and we can do it that way as well. All right, we have an instructional coach. And I know Kevin's here. He was the coordinator in Santa Cruz for math. All right, interesting. And we have an elementary teacher. Yeah, the poll's not working for me in this one. It's kind of interesting being in a different Zoom from our home Zoom. So I'm not getting any results in the poll. So thanks to those of you who are putting into the chat. So we've got an elementary teacher, we've got an instructional coach, a couple of coordinators in the room. So we will do the best we can to go ahead and tailor that to the needs that you have. And of course, you feel free to ask questions. In the chat, Cami is going to put, again, a link to our interactive slides today. And in the interactive slides, you will see at the very end of the slide deck a virtual parking lot. So if you have questions, we've got a pretty small group, so you can put them in the chat, we'll try to catch them, but you can also put them on this virtual parking lot by just opening up a text box and typing in your question, and we will make sure that we get to them at the very end as well. And then we also will use this slide deck for our first activity of the day, which is a which one doesn't belong. Now, I'm guessing we've got some math people in here who have already used which one doesn't belong quite a bit. And that's something that we've done in our district as well. We've really, in the past several years, we've worked very hard on our math pedagogy, and we've been trying to work hard on developing reasoning with our students and getting our teachers to work in these talk routines so that they are really actively getting students to talk with each other and reason with each other. And then COVID happened. And so we shut our schools down. And so traditionally in Which One Doesn't Belong in our school sites, we often would have kids actually go to four corners and choose, which corner are you going to make an argument for? But unfortunately in Zoom, you just can't do that. So we wanted to take you through one of the things that we've been sharing with teachers to get them to be able to do the Which One Doesn't Belong and share that reasoning without having to, physically move yourself, because you could take your computer to a corner, but it wouldn't accomplish anything for our purposes. So here's something that we did. So if you go onto those interactive slides that Cami had dropped into the chat, what you're going to do is you're going to pick any of those interactive slides. You can pick anything from 1 through 10. It doesn't matter which one you want to choose, but you're going to pick a number to make an argument for. And when you decide to make that argument, you're going to pick any color sticky note and you're going to move that sticky note into the quadrant of the number you want to make an argument for. And for those of you who haven't done a Which One Doesn't Belong, you're going to pick one number that doesn't belong with the rest of the group. And so you're going to make an argument for it. For example, I might look at this grouping and I might say, well, 9 doesn't belong because it's the only single digit number. You can, of course, choose my argument if you want to choose it, but you might have another argument as well. And the advantage to Which One Doesn't Belong is you could make an argument for any one of these. So go ahead and you can choose a slide. One of the things we've learned is that if we have too many people interacting with too many things on a slide, sometimes it slows it down. So you can choose any slide between 1 and 10. It's okay if you're on the same slide as somebody else. And you're going to move one of those sticky notes to the number that you feel doesn't belong. And then on that sticky note, go ahead and tell us why you think that one doesn't belong. So we'll give you a moment of think time. And for those of you who are quick on the draw, if you want to choose another number and make an argument for another number, you are welcome to do so while we let everybody have the opportunity to try it out. Okay, and while you finish that up, I know it's not a whole lot of time, and while I would absolutely love to dive into the math of any one of these, I find these so much fun, and usually end up, whenever I'm in a classroom with students, usually end up going too long on just talking about all of their fun and interesting activities or ideas. What we really want to focus on today is this engagement piece via Zoom. And so this is inherently an engaging activity in the classroom, but to engage with it via Zoom requires some tech competencies. It requires some things that you are able to do. Kind of like when we're teaching routines in class, we realized that there were things we needed to teach on the online classroom in order for students to be successful. So Kim, if we can go on to, yeah. So in going through that, and I know we didn't really have a chance to, go through and debrief all the math, which is obviously fun, but let's debrief the tech competency piece. What did you need to be able to do in order to successfully complete that activity? So kind of think from start to where you're at. What did you need to be able to do? And go ahead and type that into the chat. Tell me something that you needed to do. Yeah, you had to be able to know how to open the link. You had to be able to drag and drop the post-it note onto the slide. You had to be able to type on it and know that you actually could type into it. Clicking on a link from Zoom is definitely challenging. We needed to, and be able to know that you actually could interact with it. Something else that someone else had brought up was you had to have two screens open at once. You had to have your Zoom screen open and you had to have your Google slide open. So you had to be able to navigate between the two of those. So there were a lot of tech competencies that had to be surfaced and understood. And this was something that in our district, while we had focused quite a bit on pedagogy and we'd focused quite a bit on content, what we hadn't focused on as much was technological skill. And so we looked to the TPAC framework to kind of help us understand what PD do our teachers need in order to be successful with distance learning. And so in the TPAC framework, you'll see up at the that top circle, that blue circle in that Venn diagram, there's that technological knowledge piece. And we knew that that was going to be something we needed to focus on right away. So we did. We focused on Google Classroom. We focused on the Google tools. Pedagogical knowledge, we knew we had a lot of great methods for getting students to reason and learn in the mathematics classroom. So we knew we had quite a bit of that, but there's that overlap. In between the red and the blue circle, you can see that TPK overlap, which would be technological pedagogical knowledge. So the fact that we know how to use a Google slide, the fact that we know how to use a which one doesn't belong, we had to figure out how do we marry those two. And then what we really want is not just kids who know how to manipulate a Google slide. What we really want are students who are learning math at deep levels. So we wanted to hit that spot right in the middle, that TPAC spot, where our technology, our pedagogy, and our content were all coming together. And we knew that we couldn't do every tool in the world. We knew that we needed to focus. And so what came out over the summer was that we needed to really focus strongly on our Google tools. And so with the help of Teresa Wills, if you have not visited with Teresa Wills, I highly recommend her website. She fully inspired much of what we've done. We focused in on our Google tools and specifically Google Slides. And Cammie's going to share with you some of the things that we did in our district with Google Slides.
Good morning, everyone. So we knew that with everything changing in the teacher's world, there was going to be a need for professional development. But what we needed to find was a way to provide that professional development in a way that didn't feel overwhelming, because everything felt overwhelming. And so we really needed to narrow our focus. And by narrowing our focus, we were able to provide professional development to teachers that would really enhance their distance learning. And so we did that by narrowing our focus just to the Google Suite and specifically Google Slides. And we did that because we needed to really keep our budget in mind. And since our budget was zero, we needed to use something that we already had. And our district already had the Google Suite. And so some of our educators had been using pieces of that. Others, this was all brand new. And so we needed to provide focused professional development that was economically feasible at the time. And so that Google Slides made the most sense to us. Also, by focusing in on just Google Slides, we were able to focus on fewer tech competencies, because we know that every new platform requires different tech competencies. And so that can really take away from that deeper learning if you're just trying to figure out the tech part of it. And so by focusing on just a few tech competencies, we were able to provide training as well as follow-up coach support to our teachers on just the narrowed products that we were talking about, in this case, Google Slides. That also allowed us to train our students. We actually created week-long lessons for around tech competencies within Google. So Google Docs, Google Slides, how to create a Google slide, but also some of the things that you had talked about. How do we create a text box? How do we drag and drop? Even our youngest of students, our kindergartners, needed to understand how to drag and drop things. And so we created some lessons around that. We also wanted to make sure that the technology was enhancing the learning and the instruction and not a barrier to learning and instruction. And so by giving that focused instruction early around tech competencies, that allowed us to ensure that the instruction was really going to be enhanced by the technology. We also really wanted to ensure that we were keeping things consistent for families. Being a parent of a child in the district myself, having a bunch of different platforms is great for one student, but when you have 3, 4 students, even just 2 students, it's hard to know, well, this kid's using this platform, but this kid has to get their homework from this platform. And so as a district, we decided we were going to use Google Classroom. And so because Google Slides interface so well with Google Classroom, that was a logical focus for us. And that also made it easier for our families because we were able to provide video tutorials on how to access certain things within Google, specifically the slides, and also some FAQs around troubleshooting for when you can't figure out how to get into your Google Classroom, or how do you toggle between Google Slides and Zoom. And so we were really able to provide that extra support by really narrowing that focus. And Google Slides just made sense for our district. It provided a lot of flexibility. So we really had to change our mindset from using Google Slides as a presentation tool, like we're doing today, to Google Slides as a tool for active participation. So thinking about that whole group or small group instruction, formative assessment, summative assessment, we really looked at those different phases of instruction. And then as Tara was saying, we looked at that overlap. So where can Google Slides enhance that phase of instruction? So when we were thinking about whole group and small group, one of the pieces that kept coming up and being in an environment where we're really not trying to share anything, such as manipulatives, we were thinking about how can we use interactive slides and have interactive manipulatives to engage our learners. And so we created a slide bank that is not only base 10 manipulatives, but we also have the little counting bears. We have counters, we have 5 frames, 10 frames. And so by providing teachers with these interactive manipulatives that they could use to enhance a lesson, it was also a way to make sure that all students have access to manipulatives. Because that was one issue, is not every grade level was sending things home. And so if you're not sending home these base 10, how are students using base 10 to make sense of mathematics? And so by providing interactive manipulatives, we really allowed for that, all students to have access. Which one doesn't belong, as you all engaged in with our opener today, you saw that it was not only a great way to activate your mathematical thinking, but it's also a great way to encourage active participation. And so while this can be done whole class, kind of like what we did, it could also be done small group or with partners. And you can have different levels of active participation. So you all had active participation in the sense that you all put something on a Post-it note. Now, we left it anonymous, but a teacher could ask to put the class number or a class name so that it's not anonymous. We also have it to where we didn't share anything after just because of our time constraints today, but we could also ask for anyone who filled out a blue Post-it, please unmute and share what you put on there. Or if you thought 9 didn't belong, please unmute and share what your reasoning was. So you could still have that student voice as well as just actively participating in a way that maybe is not as vocal. Since we use Google Classroom as a district, we really wanted to be able to have some sort of formative assessment. And so when we narrowed down to just Google Classroom and Google Slides, it allowed us to then have this formative assessment piece. And so a slide like this, where we have a number line, a teacher might use this in whole group instruction or maybe small group instruction. And those yellow boxes are movable. So they would be moved along that number line. And so in a small group, I might have a slide like this, and I might ask a student to move 10,300. Where do you feel it goes on the number line? So one student might move that, another student might move another number. And we're having this conversation in a small group. But then what I can do is I can take this same slide and I can change the numbers in the yellow boxes. And then I just assign it in my Google Classroom. And if I click make a copy, essentially it's now a handout for every student. They go in and they can show me exactly how they as an individual are progressing towards my learning targets. And it didn't create like a whole bunch of extra work on the teacher's part because it was the same slide they were already using in instruction. So that allowed us some formative assessment as well. Then we had to think about our summative assessment. Now, our curriculum that we're using does have a technology piece. So there is that option for us. But we wanted to also give teachers an option to where they could really have students demonstrate their learning beyond that multiple choice. And so we wanted to really see their reasoning. So we started creating some companion slides to our curriculum that we're using, just taking what's already in the curriculum, but putting them into slides to where students could type in boxes and really explain their thinking. And so we created some slides for our summative assessments as well that could also be put into Google Classroom. So it's great to hear me talk about it, but we really wanted to give you the opportunity to explore. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes to look at a slide deck that we have put together for you to explore the different types of engaging slides that we're using. And then we're going to have you stay in the main room. You can turn your cameras off if you want, but we really just want you to go through and look at the slides. It's going to become your own. It'll be make a copy, so it'll become your own. So you can really like type in the boxes, move things around. If you're thinking like, oh, this would be great for something I'm doing when we come back in December, feel free to make it your own. If you have questions during this time about how to get into slides or anything, we'd be happy to ask those. We will have time, remember, at the end for answering those parking lot questions. So if it's not specific to the slides that we're going to share in a moment, then maybe put that onto the first set of slides you got that has the parking lot. But we really just wanted to give you some other examples and allow you to play and move things around and really interface with the slides like you're the student. So Tara has dropped those in the chat. So go ahead and click on those slides. It'll ask you to make a copy. And then feel free to move things around. I'm going to go ahead and start our timer. All right. So I'm going to bring you back to the Zoom screen. You're not there already. So Jessica had a question about sharing the interactive manipulatives. So we did share, that was, as you see now, that was part of that PowerPoint. So know that you can use that, but also know that, so we started out with our teachers just in a place of what's going to be easiest for teachers to incorporate into instruction and easiest to train our students on. But as tech competencies grow, we're able to refine that and we're able to branch out a little bit. And so some of our teachers are now branching out into those web-based manipulatives like Math Learning Center or Didax or things like that. So they're not locked into using Google Slides. It's just that Google Slides is a way for us to ensure that everyone has access. And it's also a way for us to provide professional development and support where we can meet teachers where they are. So some of our teachers are not only using Google Slides, but they're now creating their own. So we've been providing professional development around how to create your own interactive slides. So it really has grown as our tech competencies grow as well. We wanted to give you some time to talk to each other about not only what you saw, but how you might use it. So in a moment, we're going to send you into breakout rooms. We ask that in the breakout room, you do turn your microphone on, you do turn your camera on, introduce yourself, what role you have in your district, possibly even what district you're in, since we're all from different places today. And then maybe just choose one of the reflection questions to share your answer to. So either how you see student engagement increasing by using Google Slides, or maybe the tech competencies that you think students will need in order to be successful, or how might a teacher use these slides in their instruction. So you don't have to go reflect on all of them. You can choose one to reflect on, but we're going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes in your breakout room. Introduce yourself and then just quickly reflect. We ask that you make sure that everyone has airtime while you're in there. Sometimes we get really passionate and we keep going. So let's try to share the airtime in there. And then we'll bring you back. So go ahead if you haven't already and click the blue join button so that you can head to your breakout room.
Did you see the number of participants change? When we said we were going in breakout rooms, like people bailed. I had to move, one person was left literally by herself.
Are the rooms even or should I join a room?
No, they're even.
Okay. All right, I think we go to you next. did you
Yep.
want me to wrap them up when they
Yep.
come back, or you just want to pick up?
I'll just pick up. I don't think we don't have any questions in the virtual parking lot, so um, I can open it up to any questions that they have. Part of me is like, was this not what people were expecting?
Do you want to pick up from the reflection questions, or do you want me to advance the slide?
Let's just advance the slide and start from there. Okay, they've got 1 minute and I just did a 10-second return, so. Oh, it's still recording. What was I gonna say? Oh, you're gonna put the link to the feedback in the chat, right? Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to make some new connections there in the breakout rooms. And we just wanted to wrap it up by just kind of wrapping up, what we've learned so far in our journey. And the first thing that we learned obviously is just to narrow that focus. We wanted to share the world. And one of the struggles that we had is that when we offered too many different platforms, people felt like they had to do them all, and you don't have to do them all. You need to get good high quality instruction for our students. So we narrowed our platforms. Then we learned very quickly we needed to know the tech competencies needed. And I'll be honest, our kindergartners and our first graders have blown me away with their tech competencies. And so that's been very helpful to us as coaches to know that our kids can do this, so we can work with teachers to talk about things that they've tried that maybe aren't working, and help them see the tech competencies that are actually needed to be able to do that, so they can teach that and then get on with their high quality instruction. We learned that we needed to focus on pedagogy. So that TPAC framework really helped us to be aware that in the beginning, we were pretty heavily focused on just technological skill. And while it's important to have those skills, we needed to make sure that that wasn't our sole focus, because our sole focus cannot be to have really great Google slide makers and doers. We needed to have students who were receiving high quality instruction. And the last thing we learned, very specific to us as a curriculum and professional learning department, is we wanted to provide resources that were timely and easy to implement. So many of the resources in that slide deck that we shared with you were the result of teachers asking for things and asking for help. And so as they were asking for help, we have weekly sessions that our instructional coaches lead with each grade level. So Zoom's been so amazing for bringing our district, which, like I said, is a good hour to drive. It's a second to jump on a Zoom and talk about resources that were needed. So we were able to bring together resources that teachers were asking for. We were able to focus that in the Google Suite, and then help our teachers once they were feeling very comfortable and they wanted to broaden their horizons. Then we can help them as they're ready to do that. So that really, many of the resources that you saw today were the result of conversations our coaches were having with our teachers. And at this point, we wanted to return to the parking lot, but I don't see any parking lot questions. And I'm assuming that there might be a couple of questions out there that maybe didn't find their way to the parking lot. So we did want to open it up. We do have a couple of minutes left for you to ask us any questions. You can put them in the chat, or we've got a small group, so you can unmute and ask. But any questions about either one of the resources that you looked at or something that we did today that you'd like more information about?
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll share. In the breakout group that I was in, we had a second grade teacher and a fourth grade teacher, both super excited about the usefulness of the tools that you shared. As a coordinator in a county office with 40,000 students, I'm curious about ways that I can, share tools like this, with networks of teachers so they can feel that same excitement.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, one of the things that we are considering doing for professional development moving forward is we've just purchased Edpuzzle. So here I am talking about platforms, and we're trying to stick close to Google. But since we were able to use some CARES money to purchase Edpuzzle, we're considering doing some self-paced PD where we can have a resource like this and be able to push that out, but then have them, kind of answer questions and share and really engage with the resource. So it's some true learning. And then, be able to offer PD credit for that, but also be able to have that resource pushed out widely with very minimal human resource time to do.
Another thing we do in our district, as Tara talked about, we have, as coaches, we lead a grade level district-wide conversation weekly. So we have a resource page on our Innovating Education website where it goes by grade level. So every time someone, we have 42 elementary schools. So if someone at elementary school A asks for something, we want someone at elementary school B to be able to access it. So as coaches, when we create things, we're putting them into grade level folders that the entire district has access to. And so that allows us to make the resources available to everyone. So even if you're a fourth grade teacher, you want to look at what, my students are struggling with some multiplication, drop down to third grade and look at some multiplication resources from third grade that are interactive slides. So we also house all of our stuff in a place that's accessible to everyone to get that word out as well.
Okay, well, we will put our contact information and the next slide you'll see Cami and I are both semi-active on Twitter. Kind of depends on the time of year and how busy we are, but you can find us both on Twitter, and we do like to, we do read a lot of tweets and we do use a lot of tweets. So highly recommend that as a resource. Our emails are both there as well. You're welcome to email us with any questions, or, if you have something that you are kind of requesting, we can see if that's something our teachers are requesting as well, and we can share that with you. And but we're super happy to help. It's been quite a journey, and I'm sure everybody in here has plenty of learning that they've done in the past 6 months. So we wanted to be able to share with you what we've done in our district. So hopefully you got some ideas from it. Cami just put the evaluation link in the chat. Please do share. We read and we digest all feedback that we get, and many of it has been used even in the presentation today. So thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.